Hello and welcome to Loving Your Child, no matter their age. Bonding with, again. Hello and welcome to Bonding with Your Child and Loving Them, no matter their age. My name is Jim Hendricks, and I want to jump right into the slides. So let me share my screen. Okay, this program is called Loving Your Child's Brain. It is a little strange. You don't necessarily think of that, but it is the most important thing they will ever have. The most important asset your child will ever have is within this 3 pounds of um, very soft, very delicate material called the brain. In this particular episode, I want to talk about how to love your child more effectively. And I'm going to refer to some material from a gentleman by the name of Gary Chapman, who wrote a book. His first book was called Love Language. Sorry, his first book was called The Five Love Languages, and I highly recommend you get a copy and read it. The concept is this: that people are loved the way they want to be. If you don't love a person the way that you don't care, and I'll give you an example from a couple that I had in therapy when I was working as a marriage and family therapist. They had been married for a long time. They had been poor their whole marriage. And for a birthday gift, he bought her a pair of diamond earrings. You would think that would make her happy. It did not. Um, she was incensed that he would spend money that they needed for just food and paying rent on something so frivolous. Her love language was not gifts. What she wanted from him was for him to clean the gutters on the house. Her love language was an act of service. And if we look at the list next to these pictures, you see the different love languages: quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, and gifts. And if you look at the pictures with the parents interacting with their children, you see each of these illustrated. Now, Gary Chapman wrote books for adults, couples, children, and teens, maybe more. I'm not positive, but I know he covered those. And each one helps you identify your loved one, whether it's your spouse or your child or your teen. Um, Even though your child and your teen are the same person, children get receive these kinds of things because they're more into their friends typically than they are into interactions with their parents. That's normal, just in case you didn't know. Um, and so I highly recommend Gary's books, uh, and suggest you get the one that is appropriate for the situation that you have. If you don't give the um, love in the way that the other person wants it, it's like you're running through the field of daisies, arms wide open, spread like in an old movie. And instead of embracing in the middle, you run right past each other. That's what loving someone in a way that they don't feel loved is like. And you're like totally confused because, well, that's the way I want to be loved. So that's a clue for you, is if you watch how your child acts and shows you love, like if you're, um, maybe other strange creatures, they make their love language may be gifts. If they want to hang on you, that may mean that they want either quality time or touch. And so it's not, and their love language may not be just one of these things. It may be more than one. And Gary goes into that in the book. So highly recommend the book. The next part I want to talk about is protecting your child with limbic bonding. It's not just for infants and young children. Teenagers who feel loved by their parents and connected to them have significantly lower incidence of teenage pregnancy, drug use, violence, and suicide. Let that sink in. And you think to yourself, I've tried connecting with my teenager. They just won't listen to me. They think I don't care. They think I'm yelling at them all the time. And you know what? You might be. People respond to a positive statement only if it is like 5 to 10 times more often than the negative statements. It's a proven fact. Um, the number changes depending on the researcher, but for someone to feel good about another person, that other person has to give them positive feedback or input 5 to 10 times more than negative. And if you think about raising kids, that can be kind of hard to do. You need to go out of your way to notice the positive. Okay, so how can you do that with kids from birth until the time that they're out of the house? Excuse me. One way is by having special time and then later date night. Special time is at least 20 minutes a day where you do what the child wants to do. No grilling, no questions. It's not time for correction or commands. Notice as many positive things about the child as you can. Do more listening than talking, especially the older the child gets. The reason therapy works with children and can be so effective is because they know there's an adult who listens to them without judgment, earns the right to speak into their life, and they can tell anything to, and they won't necessarily get a reprimand, yelled um, at any of those kinds of things. Now, you can do that as a parent. Set aside these times where you follow these rules, follow these rules yourself. If you're playing a board game, the child is cheating, you can say, "Oh, I see you've changed the rules. I guess I get to do that too," as opposed to, "You're cheating, I'm not playing with you anymore." It's different. It has a different feel to it. So you want to help your child build skills to enhance limbic bonds. Remember, we talked about the limbic system already, and it helps them take responsibility and never take and never take a relationship for granted. They protect, and you want to protect your relationship and clarify any hurts early and often. You want to notice the good more than the bad. You want to maintain and protect trust. You want to deal with difficult issues when they come up, but do it in a gentle, non-aggressive, arguing, angry way. And that can be hard. Consider yourself to be like the ideal therapist who can listen, think about it, take time to ask questions, and understand the perspective of the child, teen, young adult. By doing that, you're earning the right to speak into their life. Let them ask, "What do you think I should do? Can you help me?" Because if you listen, they'll do that. Now, I talked about in another episode doing things that are good for your brain and avoiding things that are bad for your brain. So I want to give you some examples of things to avoid. Oh, actually, before I do that, I want to say this. When your child is misbehaving, give them options of things that are acceptable options for you and let them choose. They will feel a sense of power and control, which we all need. And it will build independence, resilience, confidence, and a whole lot more in your child. Let them decide. Now you've already kind of stacked the deck, right? So that there are things that you can go along with. Um, there's a whole lot more to parenting. This is not a parenting class. Um, Loving your child's brain is not a parenting class per se. It is all about learning about the brain and learning how to make issues that come about more, um, sorry, I should say less of a problem for the child and for you. So let's talk for a minute about things to avoid for your children or yourself. Heading a soccer ball, full contact karate, getting kicked in the head is really a bad thing. We'll talk about that in the Is it a bump on the head or a traumatic brain injury? But things that you want to avoid are chronic stress, and that can be caused by the home situation, by the relationship between alcohol use, obesity. Fat cells can produce inflammation and toxins and shrink your brain. And when it comes to the brain, size matters. Sleep apnea is horrible because it cuts off oxygen flow into the brain for sometimes minutes at a time, and that causes brain damage. It can be reversed, but it's still causing brain damage, and over time, it can be significant. In dramatic situations, like I mentioned, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the free section. My cousin has sleep apnea, went with his buddies to the mountains, forgot his CPAP machine, and of course he was younger and they were drinking, and he went to sleep and didn't wake up. It's really that important. That can happen. You want to watch. You want to control diabetes by controlling blood sugar, and you control blood sugar by what you eat, unless you are diabetic, in which case there are medications and insulin to control blood sugar. It's important to keep toxins out of their environment. So watch for low hormones or hormones being too high. Poor diet, high sugar intake are bad for your brain. Untreated depression and PTSD are horrible for your brain and other systems in your body. Lack of exercise is bad for your brain, not just your body. Making bad decisions is before. um, Poor peer group choices. You are like your five closest relationships. They influence your life very heavily. So choose them wisely. Help your children choose them wisely. It's hard when they're older, but if they understand when they are older, they can understand the gravity of taking care of their brain and actually wanting a better brain, because it will get them what they need or what they want as they want. They'll be able to have relationships that are more healthy and fulfilling, and that sort of thing. Um, and then not knowing one's own vulnerabilities is another. And we're all vulnerable to different things. And so I'll sort of leave it with that. Now let's talk about things that are good for the brain. The first one is making good decisions, having a positive peer group, protecting the brain. Sometimes that's with a helmet, sometimes that's not playing a contact sport at all. Riding a bike is healthy exercise. Falling and hitting your head without a helmet is not worth it. Um, even if you're wearing a helmet, sometimes that can be bad. But bicycle exercise is great. You just have to be careful. You need to have a clean environment, maintain good physical health, and a healthy weight. You don't have to be skinny like a supermodel or buffed up like a bodybuilder. Neither of those happen to be healthy. Both of those are unhealthy conditions. The ripped bodybuilder is that you see in a comp extremely dehydrated. That's why the muscle striations show. It shows in his skin and his muscles. It's also in his brain. His brain is dehydrated. You want your brain to be hydrated, well hydrated. You need to get 7 to 8 hours sleep a night, if at all possible, every night. Engage in new learning, not just doing the same old thing all the time. Well, if you do Sudoku, that's great, but after a while, your brain knows how to do Sudoku, and um, it's not building new brain pathways. It's just strengthening the ones that are already there. You want to be engaging in learning, so you build new neural pathways and build new brain cells. You want to eat a healthy diet, manage stress and automatic negative thoughts, which I have a whole segment on. You want to exercise regularly, and that can be 3 days a week of walking, or 5 days a week of walking 20 minutes a day. That's enough. You don't want to do things like a marathon or an ultra marathon, triathlons. Those things are extremely hard on the body, and they tend to be bad for your brain. You'd think it would be great. What appears to be a good thing can be a problem. Take brain healthy supplements, a multivitamin, omega-3s, vitamin D, and other brain nutrients that you'll learn about as you go through the course, my micro courses, if you will. So I think that's all I want to say for this particular. We've learned a few things here. One, how to love your child, how to bond with your child regardless of their age. Some parenting tips. Again, this is not a traditional parenting course or class. And then we learned some things that are healthy for your brain and things that are not healthy for your brain, and how to keep from doing damage and increase the the ability for your brain to develop and get smarter. By by doing new learnings, you get smarter. And I think it was somebody said, I want to say for a year, you're an expert. If you do it for 5 years, just an hour a day, you're a national expert or an international expert. It doesn't take a lot to make a huge difference. And when you're learning new and different things all the time, your brain is growing and getting more complex and smarter, just flat out smarter. That's it for today or for this session. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon.